All right, welcome back. I think we're live. I have to say that every single time. This is Beard Banter episode 58. And also, I'm going to tell myself, John, like, you kind of forced me out of the dark on this one. I have not given Beard Banter any love. And if I treated my beard like that, it would just fall off my face.
Yeah.
But
I
unfortunately,
like
like,
my
I
hair
haven't.
these days.
Oh,
Oh,
but that is the little one, I think, more than
that's the little
anything.
one doing it. Yeah,
Or if nothing else, the stress of how much you have to not be able to spend as much time as you'd like to, probably with the little one. And I'm pulling you away from that right now. So,
that's all right. That's all right.
um,
It's fun.
but it's for a good conversation, man. You and I have a past that's gone back a long way, and we've been involved in so many things like GTIA and so many other things, right? But one of the things that stands out to me is when you and I were sitting at a bar when we first really chatted, and we were talking about SaaS and the future,
Yep.
right? And there's just this kid that I met named John, who is sitting at a bar going, "Man, I'm going to do this way. I believe we can find things. I believe we can source it out." You were building a pretty awesome platform to do so, right? And you and I both believe that the SaaS is the future. That's where the data is. That's where it's moving. That's the lifeblood. Well, how is that impacted by AI? And I'll just start with that question. Let's open with that, John.
Boy, how long we got, Matt? Like
30 minutes or less,
okay,
minus one.
fair. I mean, fundamentally, my perspective on this hasn't changed, and I've been saying this for a long time, right? Like I've been focusing on SaaS management, shadow IT visibility. It's really been an area that I've studied for the last 4 or 5 years. And the trends have always, or rather, the problem has always been the same, but the trends have changed, right? Like 4 years ago, I was talking about people putting stuff in file sharing tools and productivity tools like Airtable and Smartsheet and Trello
Yeah.
and things like that.
Dropbox. That was one of the
Yeah,
best demos, right? Yeah, exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
And literally, it's always in my pitch. Like I can show you exactly how it happens in 2 seconds or less. But then now we're here in 2025. It's the same problem: shadow IT, data in the cloud, SaaS is where employees are working, except for now the big trendy topic, because you can't make it past a single webinar in the world, is AI. And
AI, I've never heard of it. What are you talking about here, John?
um, but it's the same problem, right? It's still SaaS. Most 90% or so, I would imagine, of people playing with it, if not more, it's just a SaaS tool to them.
Yeah.
They're leveraging AI for productivity, which is what SaaS tools do. They give you productivity for what you're doing in your business. So, same problem, new face, just
Yeah.
AI. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think I'll add to that of this, if we thought SaaS happened fast, think about what that AI revolution does for us, right? Just in the generative nature of it. I mean, I'm literally about to start a live stream with Jason Slagle. I think you're in and Ash and, to get together and just weekly put our heads together and build something in AI, right? Build a new tool, build a new website, build a new Python script. Jason built a attack platform for emulation of subdomains to self-register and discover domains for typo squatting. You wrote it in like 15 minutes, right? Like, I mean, these are tools that didn't
Hard.
exist that somebody else would have to code. And my point is, like, we're seeing that happen without barriers of entry, right? Like I got $50. I can buy as a platform and try to work down this path. Anyways, what are your thoughts on that and the speed of this?
Well, so the stats out there, Gallup came out maybe last week or so with a result that said about 40% of employees, not knowledge workers, that's the normal trend that gets dropped out there, 40% of employees across the entire workforce have leveraged generative AI in the last year.
And your data supports that, right? You and I have sat there and nerded over like how fast DeepSeek got like one deep click, right? Like
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. So like I agree with that. Yeah. And
but
one of the topics, yeah, go continue.
I was just going to say, that's just workers. Like now let's go
Sure.
down to the managed service provider. The managed service provider is usually supporting those small, medium, white collar businesses,
Yeah.
and full blue collar industries underneath there. But mostly white collar businesses for the IT side. 75% of knowledge workers are using AI.
Right.
So,
oh, sure, totally.
complete disparity in data, but everybody's leveraging.
Yeah.
And I think we all know.
And there's been a lot of conversations about AI and the proximity to automation, right? Whereas automation is one programmed flow, AI, LLMs, generative natures are starting to add agent capabilities with MCPs, right?
Yep.
I'm doing two projects right now. One is a talk called "Giving Swords to Our AI Overlords," right? With Eric Stevens at Wild West Hack and Fest, talking about MCPs and what the future could look like by rapidly expanding MCP access. But at the same time, and maybe self-servingly, Jason Slagle and I are working on a project called Skynet AI. We've already got the GitHub domain registered. We're already ready to go, where it is an MCP server that is just going to help us take in APIs from REST APIs, from Swagger files, and build MCP servers. So, right, anyways, I'll let that sink in for a second. It's terrifying.
It completely disrupts friction for software
Sure.
development. Like that was always the biggest problem. Every startup in the world ever faces that challenge. Okay, I
Yeah,
have a really cool SaaS management thing, but everybody wants to integrate it into all their tools. So that goes my next year of my roadmap.
sure.
Um, and so I think the ability for MCP to disrupt the speed of development is huge. I also think what that's going to do is introduce some second order, third order impacts, right? You talk about being able to build a quick, Jason Slagle builds a quick thing that does some typos for web squatting,
Yeah.
finds tools, releases it, now he's using it. Well, that's awesome. Then maybe he gives it to somebody else and they use it and they use it. And all of a sudden you have a SaaS company out of it. Well,
Yeah.
Jason's a smart guy. He's a cyber guy, but I don't know him to be a software developer.
Sure.
So he's probably leveraging LLM, just like everybody else in the world is using LLMs and the AI coding tools. But one thing that doesn't happen in AI coding tools is cybersecurity, thought process,
Sure.
data security, architecture for scale, proper handle of authentication. It's probably just importing some
Potentially. Yeah.
the layers. There's a whole area I'm concerned about in the future with all these like micro SaaS companies coming up with the fall apart structure underneath all of them. And
100%.
it's
100%. While at the same hand, I want to pause because I want to put on two things. And I want to say a third. First, Jason Slagle is a pretty awesome developer.
Yes.
I'll say. I don't want to but the editorial Jason Slagle of any other human we're talking about, right? To your point of like the other humans. So let's just take Jason out and we'll call him Bill. We'll actually talk about
Jason. I didn't know Jason Slagle was a software developer. That's new to me.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he's written a lot of cool stuff. Anyways,
sorry, Jason.
Yeah, super. So we'll call it Wilson. We'll talk about Wilson.
Let's talk about Wilson.
Like, we'll go Wilson. So let's say Wilson builds a new company. To your point, micro SaaS company. I can start up. I have an idea. Me and two buddies. And you love this point. You both are flexing how much you love it, and also what the risk is. They don't have any development idea background. They don't understand what the scale is going to be. They also have some challenges that'll come up, but they'll get to minimum viable crappiness, right? But the point is that you now have the ability for tons of companies to spin up that have no thought about security. They may not even survive their own weight as they start taking on users. They may not, right? There's so many things that are going to happen. And AI, Jason actually calls it like working with a drunk junior dev. Right. He's like, you can get it to do the right thing, but you got to sober him up a bit. You got to get him to check his work. You got another junior dev or somebody that's going to do quality control. You got to have somebody else that's going to do. And he says, and I find myself doing that. In fact, even like as he's going through and trying to do Git commits, he doesn't want to waste his time doing the commit. So he wants the CI/CD pipeline to check it first. And he's doing these local manual checks. They fail like 90% of the time. Like he has to manually go fix them. Anyways, I digress. But yeah, I'm with you on that horror.
Well, and we're at the point today with agents and agentic AI where agentic AI really should be just like single purpose function coding, like where you're writing a single purpose for it. And that's
100%.
That's the challenge with coding is like, it's not single purpose. It doesn't have a single definition. Like you could design an agent that does architecture handle and data handling and then API handling.
It's a fleet of agents that talk and have context. So you would have some orchestration layer that's allowing these varying functions of very verticalized SLM kind of, if you will, kind of modalities in my mind. But yeah, we're getting way off on some theoretical here. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be the way to solve that.
I don't think it's theoretical, man. I think
I know N8N will do it right now. I did a video a year ago on this. So yeah, true.
I kind of keep theorizing around this idea that you talk about MCP server to build MCP servers. I don't see any reason you couldn't build. I mean, the future of development in my mind, period, is you're going to be building architectures and frameworks that support AI. It's not going to be your traditional, let me spend 6 to 12 months putting together an infrastructure to handle the scale and all this. It's going to be,
oh no, that's minutes.
The playbooks for AI. And I keep theorizing around this idea that you could just rapidly spit out a massive amount of companies at speed. Like, Forest Park volunteer management software for a 1999 and like 100 of them.
I'm totally with you, but let's take you to the second point that I was wanting to come back to, which is that secondary impact, another one to hypothetically talk about. What about those companies that rely on, and if I get too close to home, remember we're on a private show, not our work show, but if I get too close on this, but a lot of companies rely on adding a new feature so they can put a new SKU in for a micro SKU or a micro transaction that helps them continue the platform profitability as they can't get new heartbeats, right? And some are more reliant on it, some are not, right? right?
Yep.
Some really bring releases, not features, but a lot of people add on features and try to bolt them in for a cost.
Yep.
So in that case, one of the things that Jason was really trying to do and some of the stuff he's been doing, like he built I don't want to be too specific, but he basically built something he was waiting on from a vendor for a long time because he just got tired of waiting on it as another feature. And now he doesn't have to pay for that. He has some
Yeah.
intellectual property developed that he has to manage. So he has to pay for that. He has to pay for maintenance, management, security, impact, all those things. But he's using Azure Secrets or AWS Secrets Management. He's using, he's using modern CI/CD workflows and pipelines. Like he wants to release it just like, Kelvin did as some type of an open source project. What does that do to that vendor that now couldn't operate fast enough, couldn't move fast enough, hadn't changed to AI workflows and capabilities for assistive coding? What does that do to them just from the undercut of their market position, whatever funding round they're in, wherever they might be in their later stage funding? That could be really challenging to watch that market implode. So I'd love your thoughts on that. You're much closer to this than me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking here. First thing that jumps to mind, if you're that vendor, hopefully it's not us, but like if
it's
you're
not
that
you.
vendor,
I will say it is not you. Just declare this for all attorneys
I
that
don't
might watch
care,
this
like,
later.
I don't care.
Yeah, we're good.
I care, but like,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Continue.
If you're that vendor, you should be sitting down with Jason and understanding like a little bit more on how he got it out to build. You should be supporting him. You should be maybe looking at that as a way to open up community enhancements and complementary features and work with that. I mean, this is going to happen, right? So why not collaborate with these groups that are going to extend your feature set? At the minimum, like if you're a product marketer in your head, you should go, oh my gosh, we have more value out of our product. Like, let me go partner with Jason Slagle and co-market that.
Oh, clarify. This is a product that now stands completely outside of their product, right? Because he didn't. Not elaborative. I mean, completely non-elaborative. So I mean, they just built it.
I'm sorry.
That's what I mean.
Like, SaaS is 70% of SaaS is going to be agentic AI by 2037. That's IDC data. Like that is probably going to all that's going to be left is like your big legacy data warehouses, data systems,
data lakes, things that are super contextualized, super
But in like 10 years, if I'm Joe at an auto parts store, I can vibe code my way to a central tools management system, and I don't have to pay $300 a month or $3,000 a month. And I can just say, these are all the like bare minimum features I need. And tools like, I forget the guy's name that just sold it for $80 million last week, single person. It was a solopreneur, sold it for $80 million to OpenAI.
I remember what you're talking about. I didn't know it was that large, but holy crap.
Yeah, good for him, right? But
what's that, 3 years of work? I don't know. I'd take 20 million a year.
6 months. 6 months.
Well, that's preposterous. I mean, gosh, that's only 160 million a year in profit. That's ridiculous, John.
So, but what his was a platform to build tools with AI, all the other ones that are out there, right? Like
N8N, Make.com, all of those extensibilities, right? In the same way.
But think about that, right? Like I'm now again Joe, and I have a finance platform. Well, I don't need to pay for QuickBooks. Like I'll just integrate the APIs. By the way, if you're hearing that word, you should really pay attention because that's the most important part of your future is APIs and MCPs. Like
API MCPs,
your connectivity.
And I don't know that APIs. There was a great article. It was obviously by N8N, so they were somewhat self-servicing. That believes that MCPs would supplant the work that would normally be done on APIs in the same way. Like you would just work through MCP to MCP, where they would just extend the extensibility directly to MCP, as opposed to some API extensibility.
I hear you out, but like fundamentally, 99% of software out there, it's going to be a layer on top. You're going to have your MCP
rest with some extensibility.
APIs. Like all the new software can be built with this concept of MCP. Like if you've got 10 years of software, you're going to put a layer of MCP on top of your APIs. You're not going to create like this new modern.
And maybe that's actually a good thing, John. What if you think about it? Like, what's the normal thing? You have a WAF with WAF understanding of APIs, and you hope to catch when somebody's being a dick with a rule, right, or doing something. But what if now the MCP limits what those functions can even do with the AI to use cases and outcomes, right? Like, what if that now has a security layer that comes at the MCP layer, both from filtering and maybe from like the things that are being developed? I've talked to several companies working towards like WAF type extensibilities for MCP servers, like where there's actually a translation layer in the MCP side as an output function, not as an inputter to on the LLM side, right? Like before it can do something, let's make sure this action's fine before it talks to the API. So I think that's probably a possibility, is a good thing. What are your thoughts on that? Or Matt, you're an idiot, which is fine.
No, I don't think you're an idiot. But I did get to a possibility. I think the problem is though, like I want MCPs to be here tomorrow, everybody to have all their MCPs, but half these companies don't even have APIs.
Yeah.
So like The reality is that we're probably stuck with APIs and MCPs, and there's going to
Sure.
be some orchestration layer. And so you can secure your MCP as much as you want as an additional layer, but you're still going to have to expose your APIs. So probably still put your security down to your API layer instead of your MCP layer, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, both, all three layers, I suppose. But
Yeah. That's more than what I'm arguing of measured outcome and expected outcomes
yeah,
of it, right? Where you have something, Jason and I kind of conjectured about this, but where maybe there's another LLM that is making a decision on whether this decision is harmful.
gotcha.
Right. And so now it's this
Oh,
as a
yeah.
greater outcome of this function before it actually takes the action at the API layer. Something is in the orchestration layer saying, let's run this by another LLM agent that's checking, hey, is John doing bad stuff over here? Like, is this
Yeah.
bad outcomes, bad harm?
But I see that as like post endpoint pre-execution, right? Like,
yeah, that's exactly where we see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Same.
okay. We're on the same page. I'm just
we just did different words because Matt makes up words too much. So yeah,
no, and so do I. Hardenisms. We make them up as we go.
But what gave me that idea was more the way Sunil's looking at things, right? Sunil Yu and his approach to the security of LLMs was like, we could never deal with, and it goes back to the DIKW pyramid, right? The data, information, knowledge, wisdom, and saying that like data is my heartbeat. Just for everybody watching Zedification, I know you know, data is my heartbeat is 130, right? My blood pressure is horrible, 190, or that should just be the data, right? Information is, man, that's really high heartbeat, and that's a really high blood pressure, right? Knowledge is like, this bloke's gonna die if it stays this way, and wisdom is, hey fatty, stop eating the bad stuff, right? Like, so it's that balance of the DIKW pyramid. As you go further and further up, it's more contextualized, it's more complex, all of those things. What I'm getting at is the way Sunil argues it is, and with Gnostic, I'll give quote to his company, that's this I'm not stealing their intellectual property, but is that you can't prune so much of all of the access that people need at the bottom layer in such a way that you don't give the ability to garner and have knowledge and information. What you want to rather do is try to find out as you start, I mean, not in conjunction, I'm not saying rather, that's unfair, but you want to actually measure the harm at the output post endpoint, pre-execution of handing it back to the user, right? And to that point of now saying, should John Harden get how many people in this company are transgender? Like, if that was the way he worked his way to get it, we don't care how he got there. They're about to tell me this many people are transgender. We should stop that statement from coming if it produces harm, right? And so that's what made me down this path of like, we could certainly go, if an API wants to spin up 10,000 machines, there's a point to alert John and his team and see if that was expected behavior, right? That looks harmful, right? In some way. So that's easier to measure harm. Anyways, off on a tangent.
No, I just think that's a new approach that most vendors, you used to have to rely on just like rate limiting, and you would not, I mean, that wasn't it, but like rate limiting is kind of used to be your thing. Like, hey, let's stop brute force attacks. We'll limit the amount of things they can do. Now you can put down layers at the bottom of your API calls where it's like, okay, should this RMM script be ran? Should this firewall configuration alteration happen? Should this backup change? Should we be allowed, like, being able to do this? Because I mean, obviously the power of AI is really that non-standardized data into some level of standardization for evaluation.
It's a contextualized. It's bringing it up to knowledge and wisdom layers. Those are highly contextualized, highly complex, right? That's the point.
And so now I love that side from the cybersecurity side where you can look at it call right before you remote execute. Yeah. Go, whoa, this is very,
this looks
very
bad.
different. Like, this looks really bad. But like 3 years ago, unless you were, ServiceNow, you didn't have access to something like that realistically, because I mean, you could. If you were able to afford that, $500,000 engineer to come to your team and work on it.
And I want to be careful for anybody watching not to think this is todaywear and that we're here and that I fully believe we're here. I don't believe that's the case, but we're damn close. Like, I don't know what that time measure is, but
I think we're like I don't know. I'll just throw out a day. Like, I feel like we're probably a few years away from some really aggressively changing SaaS practices, like the ability to dramatically disrupt the SaaS industry for the microservice. You're not still displacing this like very heavy knowledge. And quite frankly, like, I don't know if we've ever gone down this tangent. There's going to be a point too with AI where the data mongers win, because fundamentally, one of my favorite investments out there, I don't know if I brought this up with you before, is John Deere. And I think about John Deere.
You and I've had this conversation, but it's worth having. So keep going.
I think about John Deere and I go, oh my gosh, I want to put more money in John Deere. And everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Well, first off, John Deere is basically SaaSified tractors, so go them. But Which is horrible, by the way,
Sassified
for the
tractors.
farmers.
You can
Like,
get shot calling them that in some places, boy.
yeah,
They ain't
I know.
sassified tractors.
Yeah, I know, right?
Anyways.
Who's this city guy? But on all those tractors now are those cameras, and they're collecting data, and they're being able to micro spray pesticides on their
Yep.
lawn tractors. Well, one of the beautiful things is now they're gathering this data of all these weeds, of all these different crops across all these different thousands and millions of acres of land. And now they have this camera data set that who else is going to displace that? Another tractor startup? Like
Yeah.
nobody will ever disrupt that moat. And I feel
Yeah,
like these
I
data
agree.
mongers are the wins or the champions of the future, because I could try to do this thing that John Deere's doing, but they have trillions and trillions of gigabytes and petabytes
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
crop
100%.
data. And so then that opens up a dilemma in the future, right? Because if they hold the most data for this singular problem, they will always be the best in it.
Yeah.
There can never be competition, because now
Yeah.
you're never going to get access to all that data. And so now
That's where you're going to go to buy that data, right? If they decide to sell it, if they don't, then they have that private data, and you have an insurmountable cliff, right? To your point of getting to that data. So to your point of mongers by delineation.
I just say, if you're a startup now, or if you're a business now, and you're looking at like how you can differentiate, it's like however you can start piling up good, clean data, like that's obviously the future, when I can turn SAS on in an afternoon of vibe coding.
Yeah, yeah, and I knew you had to work vibe coding in here a few times, because that's exactly what we're talking about here. Unfortunately,
Pellegrino, we agreed on the rules in the background. AI, vibe coding,
oh man. Anyways, brother, well, I we can talk about this forever, and I think that's a point of me making this episode, is that I think there's value in us putting hands on keyboard, turning around and showing people what we're talking about here, right? And actually just making stuff and showing people what we're talking about, get people kinesthetically involved in understanding, and ourselves more involved with what this future really looks like, right? If that makes sense.
And I'm going to take that statement and add a little bit onto it, because I had a great conversation a couple weeks ago with Wes Spencer, and he had a great thought on this thing. We talk about getting our hands on it, me and you, right? Like, let's get on, and we're going to encourage all of our people in our community around us to do it. Well, I think if you're an MSP on the other side listening here, or you have customers you support, get them involved. Like Wes had an awesome exercise.
Yeah.
Great. Like,
yeah.
He said, sit in your QBR and have them all go to Copilot and ask them to generate an image of what I look like. Like, ask your Copilot, what do you think I look like based off of all the data they have on you? And Matt, they're probably going to nail you pretty dang close, right? Like all your voice.
Oh, I imagine.
They probably got my hair falling out now from my
from the earlier statement. Yeah. It's gonna be great. They're gonna be like, all the times I make jokes about my eyes, they're gonna have my eye like almost wrapped around the inside of my head in the picture, right? Like, yeah.
But no matter the outcome with your customer, you can talk to your customer and go, well, that was really wrong, wasn't it? That's kind of scary. We should probably look at like what could go wrong if you used AI wrong, or if it's really right, really scary.
That's powerful. So that's powerful.
Just putting that in your QBR is a really cool tactic, because you're just starting those conversations. And with the point you made earlier, let's get everybody like kinesthetically involved. Pull your customers along with it too if you're an MSP, because that's how you're going to be that trusted service provider.
Let's take this last 5-6 minutes that we've got, John. Why don't you talk me through this architecture you've put together for your talk coming up here at is it GTIA ChannelCon? Is that where this is coming up?
Yeah, GTIA ChannelCon on Tuesday. One of the subsections we're going to talk about in there is kind of what I'm calling the 4 corners of AI to think about. I put in the cyber, how to secure it, the consulting, how to do it, the consulting on how to do it for your customer, which I think where everybody's trying to figure out. The technology, which is how you're going to deliver it. Are you going to use cloud LLMs? Are you going to use?
Are you going to host the MCP server? Are they going to host it? Are you going to put it in your computer? Are you going to put it in theirs? Like, how are you going to structure this? Like, how do you multi-tenant it? How are you going to manage it? How are you going to scale it? Are you going to use GitHub? Like, what are you doing? Like, all that things. Anyways, I digress. But
and then services, right? Like, how are you going to support it? And that's not novel. You could have taken cloud and had those 4 exact arms at it. But I think walking people through those different areas, because I think a lot of people are looking at technology arm right now. They're going, "Ooh, cool, and and I've got AI." Like, woohoo, let's go sell it. Like, but I think you got to help somebody balance those 4 pillars, because you can't have tech without cyber and consulting without But you had a hot take behind the scenes. Like, let's
I had a couple of them, right? Like, I think there's 2 things that I really want to enforce in your 4 points. One is like absolutely the commoditization of our world. John, have you ever run an Exchange server?
Long time ago. My
Yeah,
gosh.
it
Yeah,
takes a lot, right? Yeah,
yeah,
you gotta support it. You've got logs to manage. You have to make sure that the right disk speeds. You have to back it up. You have to make sure that you update it. That means taking it offline or having some multiple pairs of them so you can do an exchange farm if you've gone down that path, which is a horrid path to go down, right? Or those things. So you have to do all of those things in order to run, use, and manage that. But now, what does it take to manage an M365 license by comparison? Like it's a fraction, some fraction, nth of it, right? It's very small.
you can vibe talk to an MCP server and it's
You
up.
can vibe talk to an MCP server that talks to MCP servers that Matt and
Pair,
Jason made.
I'm sorry. I'll let you get to it. But one good comment that what was his name out at PAX 8 Beyond? Your AI guru over at
Oh,
PAX 8.
Eric Stevens. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's the one that's doing that talk with me. Yeah.
yeah, I really like his perspective on it. My favorite thing he said, and I took it away pretty wholeheartedly, was pair everything. It's just pair everything. Pair MCP servers, pair license, not pair programming, but pair sales, pair marketing, pair
Yeah.
like. And so when you talk about the commoditization, pair everything. Like you can
Yeah,
pair
pair
everything.
everything.
You don't even
So
have to be
backfilling that commoditization, that means we have to be, as humans, though, to be the ones that come in and help be deeper in the business, right? That's the reason I bring up this commoditization, is that you've seen it with VCIO work. You've seen it with, getting deeper into SaaS. I mean, that's been your jam, right? All of these things, as functions extend, we are getting deeper in their business, more valuable for their business, at least hopefully, right? So that's that consulting arm. I think that applies universally, right? Back to your point of cloud or SaaS or now, AI, right? And I cloud and SaaS just because everybody else that hears cloud thinks, oh, I have a server somewhere that I run in an IaaS closet. And I'm like, no, bro, I'm talking about like SaaS. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry. So I delineate. But, you see that has happened over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, right? This massive shift to SaaS, commoditization of the MSP, backfilling. Thank God people got their doors kicked in for a while, or else we'd have been worth nothing, right? The security value of an MSP became quite valuable from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 through now. And so I think this is that next wave of value. But to the point of, commoditization backfill with consulting, the other piece I wanted to make is the security impact of this. Right, you're going to go let a customer set this up, and this came up with Jason too. I used Jason 3 times, so I don't have to pay him now for this one. The $0 I'm paying you, but the thing that came up is he was talking to a financial services firm that wanted to do an agent that had visual characteristic and recognition, which is already solved. It doesn't have to be AI for that, right?
Yeah.
You can do optical or human recognition easily in a room, right, from cameras and things, and then takes that signal and then pulls John Harden's information, the likely results that he's had from those investments over the last 3 months with a new report, pull up the things that he's most likely to invest in, bring up stuff about his family you can find on Facebook, so it's great to comment about, that this is then provided privately. It's like all this like really awesome experiential stuff for high-end investors, so that John doesn't come in and have his time wasted. They come in, here's my report, it's right here on the main screen, throw it up to the main in the conference room in this beautiful glass room. And Jason's like, the security of all of this needs to be discussed. Like, we need to manage it for you. We might need to filter it. We might need to do some things. We need to maintain it. If a new model comes up and that word now changes what the model's doing because of the way we're actually inputting our system prompt, and maybe that needs modified. Like, to your point, bringing it to the services arm of this too, right? So there's a security element, but also a services arm that comes with that security element. Not just, oh, we'll secure it. It needs to be maintained.
Yeah.
It needs to go forward. It needs to be continuing, like, and tested. And it's a lot. And you said this in the beginning, we'll wrap back to it. It's a lot like building SaaS yourself.
Yeah, no, it really is. The amount of legwork behind actually maintaining it. Everybody's spinning it up left and right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we did this really cool. And then like 3 months later, it's not working for some reason. It's like, well, welcome to software, right? Like that is where we've been. And AI, I know it's just no real difference. It's just given us a whole different layer of problems we can solve, which is why it's so exciting.
And speed with which to hit the wall at.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Yeah, go continue.
No, but like you're right. There's a myriad of different. We could have spent another half hour on that topic. That'd be a fun one. Just all the attack vectors that the attack surface now has exposed with AI. Like,
well, I'm going to close because we're at 30 minutes. I'm going to close with this statement, and it may trigger you to come back. We might have to do another Beard Banter episode on it. But I've been saying lately that there's a lot of one-armed mother blankers in the Industrial Revolution. Whole lot of dead folks too. Reached in, the machine wasn't safe, got pulled through, no lockout, tag out procedures in place, no stop. But would anybody argue that we shouldn't have had the Industrial Revolution?
Of course not.
And all I'm saying is that being an early adopter can mean you might be the one-armed guy. But I'll also say that these people going through these stages right now that are creating and going through this are going to accelerate the industrial revolution of our time in software. I mean, we haven't even gotten into the implications of SaaS not needing a front end or a UI UX in the same way. I don't care about your having to design one platform visual for everyone to love when everyone hates it. Like none of that exists in the future in the same way.
I'm with you, right? But you might be the Henry Ford. If you might be the one-armed guy or the Henry Ford, but I will say,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Go risk reward. Risk reward.
I am so ready to log into my Salesforce or my CRM and just say, give me my top 10 tasks today. I don't need to go through 13 lightning modules. I just want to go tell me what to do.
I love that you disambiguated from sales to CRM. Like you're like, I don't even consider it the tool anymore. I just need the data. Back to the data monger conversation and the API access. Yeah.
I just can't wait to where I can talk to all my different things, and I don't need interfaces anymore.
Yeah. Hal, what are my next 10 most important things from a CFO perspective? Yeah, I can't do that, Bill. Yeah. Anyways, no, I tease. But yeah, I'm excited for it too, man. I really do believe that there's also a security positive implication, and I'll close with this, of the speed at which we can normalize variables and APIs and things that are set in a SaaS model, and now bringing in AI or agentic responses in the speed and the efficiency that can bring, should bring and hasten that normalization of security functions in cloud. And I have to really unpack that, but I think you follow me at least enough to, on that conversation.
Yeah, I'm just excited for like some real tried and true marketplace validated, like peer approved agent models where we can
that are going to be continued forward and supported. Some jackass that and just going to make some money and then fold up shop when they're
some open source AI models we can use in the future from the security perspective.
For sure.
It's not just your spin of the mill problem, but that's another day, another topic.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for a Beard Banter. Continue to comment below from everybody down below that's watching or listening right now. And John, where can people find you? Oh, wait, everywhere. So we're not have to worry about that.
LinkedIn. That's all we care about, you guys.
Cool.